I can't pinpoint the exact moment of the crash, just a deafening roar, a blinding flash, and then an abyss of darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was in a sterile hospital room, swathed in bandages, my left leg immobilized, bruises blooming like storm clouds across my arms. A searing pain throbbed in my skull, and my consciousness flickered like a dying flame. But amidst the haze, one thing burned clear: the woman beside me. She wore a navy blue nurse's uniform, her dark hair swept into a tight bun, and her presence was a beacon in the fog of my pain. I can still hear her first words, soft and steady, like a lifeline thrown into the void. "You're safe. I'm here." My eyes fluttered shut again, but her voice lingered, a tether to the world I wasn't ready to leave. When I woke again, it was night, the room bathed in the dim glow of a bedside lamp. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, my body a prisoner to its injuries, but she was still there, seated by my bed, a book open in her lap. The sight of her calmed me in a way I couldn't explain. How strange, how miraculous that a stranger could feel more comforting than the family I'd known all my life. Her presence was a quiet balm, soothing the jagged edges of my fear. The next morning, I learned her name, Elena. "Good morning," she said, her voice warm like sunlight breaking through a storm. "I'm Elena. You might feel some discomfort today, but we're going to get you better, I promise." As I watched her move through her tasks, checking charts, adjusting my changing dressings, I noticed something extraordinary. Elena wasn't just doing her job. There was a tenderness in her touch, a sincerity in her gaze, an energy that set her apart from the other nurses. Each time her fingers brushed my skin, it felt like a spark, igniting something deep within me, something I hadn't known was there. In those early days, our conversations were brief, her questions simple yet intimate. "What did you dream of last night?" Or, "How do you take your coffee this morning?" Her sincerity was controlled, professional, but beneath it, I sensed a desire to truly know me, to make me feel seen. And I, in turn, found myself craving her presence, longing for her to be the first face I saw each day dawned as the physical pain began to ebb. A new ache took its place, a longing, a need, a yearning I couldn't name. Elena became more than a nurse. To me, she became my anchor, my light. While other staff rotated through their shifts, Elena's schedule was a constant, her arrival as predictable as the sunrise. Each morning, she'd greet me with a gentle, "How are you today, sweetheart?" A term of endearment that felt both casual and profound, stirring something deep within me. One morning, I opened my eyes to find her absent, and the void she left behind was a physical ache, a hollow in my chest that made my heart stutter. In that moment, I realized the truth I'd been afraid to admit. I wasn't just healing for myself, I was healing to see her. Elena, the woman who had saved my life, had also stolen my heart, and I was falling deeper with each passing day. When physical therapy began, Elena could no longer be with me every moment, but whenever our schedules aligned, my world brightened. She left me notes to lift my spirits, small scraps of paper tucked into my chart or slipped under my pillow, bearing single words like courage or a simple hand-drawn smile. Each note felt like a secret, a whisper of her care that I hoarded like treasure. One day, after a grueling therapy session that left me defeated and hollow, Elena appeared, her presence a sudden burst of warmth. "I want to show you something," she said, her voice soft but insistent. She took my arm, steadying me as we made our way to an empty terrace on the hospital's top floor. It was the first time I'd seen the city from above, the skyline stretching out like a promise, the wind cool against my fevered skin. "Sometimes," she said, her gaze fixed on the horizon, "seeing your pain from a distance makes it feel smaller." Her words were a revelation, but it was her heart, her ability to heal not just my body but my soul, that left me breathless. Standing there, the city sprawling beneath us, I dared to ask her something personal for the first time. "Have you ever felt a connection with someone?" I asked, my voice trembling, the kind most people would call forbiddance. Her eyes flickered, a shadow passing over them, and she looked away, shaking her head slightly. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I was different then, and I was afraid." Her confession ignited something within me, a spark of recognition, a realization that she too was hiding a part of herself. From that moment, I developed a new ritual. Each night before sleep claimed me, I replayed our moments together, savoring the sound of her voice, the warmth of her touch, the way her eyes softened when she looked at me. One evening, as I lay alone in my room, the door creaked open, and Elena stepped inside. "I have a little extra time tonight," she said, her voice hesitant. "May I sit with you?" My heart leapt, a wild, untamed thing, and I nodded, unable to speak. She settled beside me, her body close enough that I could feel the heat of her, and then, in a gesture that felt both daring and natural, she rested her head on the edge of my pillow. We lay there in silence, the air thick with unspoken words, until she turned to me, her eyes searching mine. "You're different for me," she said, her voice raw with emotion. "You already know that, but I have to protect you." Her words hung between us, heavy with meaning, and I felt a surge of courage. "Maybe what you want to give me," I said, my voice steady despite the storm within, "is exactly what I need." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. Instead, she reached for my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine, and we stayed like that through the night. Our silence a sanctuary, our touch a vow. For the first time since the accident, I slept with a peace that felt holy. The next day, Elena was gone. Another nurse took her place, and her absence was a wound deeper than any I'd sustained in the crash. Had I said too much? Had I crossed a line? I wanted to believe that our connection, the way her hand had fit so perfectly in mine, the way her breath had steadied mine, was real, but doubt gnawed at me. One day turned to 2, then 3, and on the evening of the 4th, the door opened again, and there she was, her eyes weary, her uniform rumpled, 2 cups of coffee in her hands. "I've been avoiding you," she admitted, her voice trembling as she stepped inside, "but I can't avoid myself." She sat beside me, handing me a cup, her fingers brushing mine. "It's still hot," she said, a faint smile flickering across her lips, but I couldn't return it, not yet. The hurt still lingered, sharp and raw. "Why did you come back?" I asked, my voice edged with resentment. She shrugged, a small, helpless gesture. "Because I miss you." Her honesty disarmed me, and I found myself speaking the truth I'd held back for too long. "I miss you every day, Elena," I said, my voice breaking. "When I wake up, when I walk, when I breathe. But you always build a wall between us." "Why?" The silence that followed was agonizing, stretching taut between us until she spoke, her voice low and pained. "Because I'm married," she said, the words a dagger to my heart, "to a woman. We've been together for 3 years, and I can't hurt her, but I can't stop seeing you." Her confession was a storm, tearing through me, leaving me raw and exposed. "I just wanted to heal," I said, my voice trembling, "but I lost my heart to you. Was that a mistake?" Her eyes filled with tears, and she shook her head, a fierce, desperate motion. "No," she whispered, "but it's not simple." And then, as if the weight of our silence had become too much to bear, she leaned toward me, her fingers trembling as they brushed my cheek. "I wish our lives had been different," she murmured, her thumb tracing the arch of my eyebrow, her touch a prayer. I couldn't resist. I took her face in my hands, feeling the warmth of her skin, the pulse of her beneath my fingertips. Her eyes flickered with hesitation, but then she closed the distance and we kissed. It wasn't sudden or reckless. It was an explosion of everything we'd suppressed, a deep, warm, vulnerable merging of not just our bodies, but our souls. When our lips parted, we were breathless, my fingers still resting on her chin, her eyes locked on mine. "It can't happen again," she said, her voice thick with emotion, but I had to know it, or my regret would have consumed me. I understood in that moment that some experiences are singular, unrepeatable, yet they mark us forever. Elena gave me such a moment of wrong, beautiful peace. After the kiss, we said nothing. She rested her head on my shoulder, and we stayed like that, wrapped in a silence that felt sacred, until she lifted her head, looked into my eyes, and said, "I have to go." I closed my eyes, unwilling to watch her leave, and when the door clicked shut, the silence was deafening. My heart ached, but beneath the pain, I felt a strange lightness, as if naming our connection had freed me. Even as it broke me the next morning, Elena didn't return, nor did she come to my room in the days that followed. Her absence was a void, but I clung to the memory of her touch, her voice, her notes, replaying them in my mind like a melody I couldn't forget. On the day of my discharge, as I signed the final papers, a nurse handed me an envelope. "Elena asked me to give you this," she said, her voice soft. With trembling hands, I opened it, finding a single sheet of paper inside, her handwriting elegant and precise. "Knowing you has reminded me that I am human again, but some lives must silence others. I loved you, even though I knew I shouldn't." I read those words over and over, each one a wound, each one a gift. I had known her for only a few weeks, but I would carry her with me for the rest of my life. When I returned home, the world was as I'd left it, my apartment unchanged, my routines familiar, but I was not. A friend remarked, "You're so lucky to have survived the crash," but what I'd lost was far deeper than my physical scars. I had to learn to live without Elena, even as every moment she'd touched me replayed in my mind, a bittersweet echo of a love that could never be, yet would always be mine.